Hello, everyone. Welcome once again. We are live, and I can see that a few people have started trickling in. So, for those of you who are just joining in, if you can hear me, and this also serves as an audio and video check for me, if you could let us know in the chat window which city you're dialing in from. So, welcome everyone to another wonderful masterclass brought to you by the Carlson School of Business. Very quickly in the chat window, if you could let us know which city you're joining in from. So we have Nirbhay, who's from Mumbai. Hello. Who else? The rest of you, if you could let me know which city or which country you are dialing in from. We love to know where our students are coming from. We want to know where exactly are you from. We have Surbi, who's from Mumbai. There's someone joining from Nigeria, someone joining from Ghana. Nupur from Mumbai. Thank you so much. I can see we are close to 100 odd students from Delhi, Mumbai, uh, Accra, Nigeria. Like I said, someone from Nepal. Thank you so much for joining in today. But before I get started, as I mentioned, in today's session, we are going to be talking about cracking the analytics code, Carlson School's guide to success in the USA. As the name suggests, of course, the session today is brought to you by the University of Minnesota's Carlson School of Management, which is a leading business school located in Minnesota, USA. And of course, we are going to be talking a lot about uh, what kind of programs they offer, scholarships, funding. But most importantly, we are also going to be joined by their dedicated career coach for the MS in Business Analytics program at the school. And she is going to be talking to us about how exactly is it at Carlson School? Do they help international students such as yourself who are looking to get onto campus with your job search process, with your job applications? And what helps Carlson get those amazing numbers with students getting into some of the top ranked companies year on year? So yes, a lot is going to be happening in today's discussion. But very quickly before we get started, I am going to introduce the panel to you as well. Joining me today, firstly, my name is Sabahat Herzog. I am the Associate Director with Seed Global Education. We are a UK headquartered company which facilitates interactions like these between top universities and prospective students like yourself, giving you a taste, giving you a flavor of the offerings that these universities have so that you can make the right choice. As I said, joining me today on the panel is Garth, who's the Associate Director of Recruiting at the Carlson School of Management, uh, MBA and MS programs. He has spent an entirety of his career in the education journey, and he's your go-to person if you are looking for any advice, if you're planning to join the Carlson School of Management, if you have any questions or queries. Along with Garth, I also have Erin, who's here with me. I'm just going to quickly add her as well. Great. Hi, Erin. So we also have Erin, who's joining us from the Carlson School. She's an associate director and a career coach with the Carlson Business Center. She's been working in career development for the past 17 years and with Carlson for the past 7 years. And she loves to help students such as yourself pursue and help you get your next job. We are also later going to be joined by Susan Huan, who's the Director of Recruitment for the Carlson School of Management for their MBA and MS programs. One thing I can assure you about that everyone on the panel today is really passionate about what they do and is really passionate about helping prospective students like yourself. So in case if you all have any questions or queries, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box where we will be taking them up shortly after the presentations. So before I get started and before I sort of invite Garth to speak a little bit more about the university, I'm going to quickly run my first poll question for the day. For all 100, we are close to 180 of you in the room. I'm going to launch my first poll question for the day, which is on the screen in front of you. So to everyone who's joined in, what is your main motivation for studying in the USA? Why is it that you feel that US is your study destination of choice? Is it the access to quality education and world-class institutions like the one that we have with us today? Is it for opportunities for career advancement? Are you someone who's looking to know more people for the cultural experience and diversity? Is networking and professional connection something which is appealing for you? Or do you feel it's the right place to get your return on investment and, of course, the potential for higher earnings? So To all of you who have just joined in, the first poll question is on the screen in front of you. Please let us know, what is your main motivation for studying in the USA? What is it about the US of A that appeals to you? Is it the access to quality education and world-class institute? Is it opportunities for career advancement? Is it for the cultural experience and diversity? Is it for networking and professional connections, or for potentials for higher learning? I am going to keep the poll running for a few more minutes. For those who have just tuned in, the first poll question is on the screen in front of you. Please go ahead and cast your votes so that we know what exactly is it that you wish to gain out of this session. Where exactly is your intent? What is it, and why do you want to study in the USA? Right. So for another 2 seconds before I shut down the first poll for this evening, if for those of you who haven't casted their votes, please feel free to go and do so. Great. With that, I will be ending the poll question and sharing the results. As you can see, 40% of you prefer US as a study destination for opportunities for career advancement, closely followed by, of course, access to quality education and world-class institutes. So great. You have joined the right session today, because Carlson School of Management is not just going to be talking about what makes them a world-class institute, but also career opportunities and how exactly are they going to be helping you in that. With that, I now hand it over to you, Gard, to please tell us a little bit more about the university, the programs and offerings. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sabaha, for the introduction, and welcome everyone to our session today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So we have a lot of programs here at the Carlson School of Management here at the University of Minnesota, here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, and St. Paul in Minnesota here in the USA. Today in particular, though, we're going to be focusing on one of our programs, and especially kind of based on what we just saw in that poll you all did. We have a lot of people here interested in potential career advancement, getting a great education and an interesting subject. So we really wanted to highlight our MS in Business Analytics here today. Our MS in Business Analytics is a fairly intensive STEM designated program we have here at the Carlson School of Management. The point of this program is to combine data science, technical principles, AI tools with consulting skills and business acumen, so that you could take what you learn from data, what you pull from data, and apply it in a business setting so that you can communicate your findings to executives and other people as well. So some other important details about this program. It is a 1 year, 12-month, it's a 12-month program total, starts in the fall, 45 credits. You'll have some several elective credits that you can take throughout that course too, but for the most part, it is a cohort-based program. So you're going to be with your cohort, learning about all of these AI tools, machine learning, these very deep technical skills that are so helpful when you're going out into the job market. You can also see too, this program is mainly aimed at recent graduates and early career professionals. We typically see 0 to 5 years of students of work experience from our students, with the average amount of work experience being around 3.1. You can see over on the left there, our class profile for this program can give you a general idea of where our students tend to be at for the MSBA program, as well as our ranking there at the bottom of the screen. We do also offer scholarships too for this program. I know a lot of folks here, I often get questions asked about scholarships. So every single admitted student is automatically considered for scholarships for this program, regardless of if you're an international or domestic student. There's no additional forms you have to fill out. It's all just baked into our admissions review process. It's based entirely on merit. And historically, the maximum an individual student can receive from the Carlson School is around $25,000. Some other quick logistical details before we pass things off to Aaron, just about the application as a whole. So this is a highly technical program, so we do have some prerequisites, some expectations of what we want students to have before they even apply to the program. So we have a calculus and programming prerequisite, and those different prerequisites can be fulfilled in a couple of different ways. For the sake of time, I won't go into all those, but I'll be sure to post the link that will kind of lay out all those prerequisites, as well as all the other application requirements for the MSBA program. Also on the left, you can see our deadlines. So we have our first deadline coming up November 1st for the MSBA program. So definitely encourage you all to start that application if you're interested. After what you hear today from Erin, again, this is such a high potential field, business analytics, and it's such a valuable skill for students to have. So definitely more than happy to continue the conversation with you all. If you want to chat, ask questions about this program, any of our other programs, I'll be posting my email, my direct email address in the chat shortly. You can feel free to reach out to me directly. Otherwise, you can also reach out to our program email at msba@umn.edu. And again, our first application deadline is coming up November 1st. The last deadline for international applicants outside of the US is March 15th. So you still have plenty of time too, if you want to take your time on developing your application. But otherwise, always feel free to reach out. I'll definitely be here to answer questions that we see in the Q&A. But otherwise, I'll go ahead and pass things back to Sabahat.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Garth, for the insightful sessions. I'm sure everyone has a lot of information from that. Before I sort of move on to Erin, I'm going to run my second poll question for this evening. We know that a lot of you were interested in looking at the US as an option because of the career opportunities available for you. So now then, if you were to join an institute, what aspect of career support are you most interested in? Are you someone who's looking for some self-assessment, discovering your strengths and career fit? Do you want help with job search strategies? Do you feel that is something important about how you can find and apply for the right kind of jobs? Is networking something that you would be really keen on knowing more about to help you build a more professional connection? Company research, how do you go about researching about the company and the potential employers? Or are you someone who's looking for resume guidance, creating a standout resume, interview preparation, offers and negotiations, evaluating job offers, or all of these things which I have mentioned about? So very quickly in the Q&A box, if you can let us know what aspect of career support as an international student would be of utmost importance to you. There is a list of options which are given on the screen. If you could quickly go and cast your votes, I'm sure that would also help Erin understand what exactly is it that the students in India and Africa are looking for from the career support teams back home. Great. So end it. For those of you who still wish to cast their votes, go ahead and do so. In the meantime, of course, if you all have any questions or queries, please feel to keep them rolling in the Q&A box. We will be taking up your questions once Erin is done with her presentation. With that, I'm going to end the second poll for this evening and share the results. Great. So around 35% of the people on the poll are looking for all of the above things. So they do want help with all of it, closely followed by those who are looking for self-assessment, along with finding the right job strategy, etc. So thank you so much, everyone, for answering those questions. With that, I now sort of hand it over to Erin to take us through her presentation and tell us a little bit more about the career services at Carlson School.
Sounds good. All right, can everyone hear me and my presentation looks okay?
Yes, all good.
Perfect.
All
Thank you
good.
so much. Okay, well, it's great to meet everybody and see some faces here. Yeah, I'm excited to talk too. So my assumption, my talk is cracking the analytics code. So one of the best parts about my job, as you heard from me before, is I've worked in career services for about 17 years, and 7 of those have been not only with the Carlson School of Management here at the University of Minnesota, but they've actually been specifically with our Master's in Business Analytics program. One of the great parts about the way that we are organized in our office is that I get the pleasure of being working directly with MSBA. And so I get very inundated. I get really focused on it. I always tell my students that consider me a technical career coach, a technical recruiter, because even though I don't know how to do Python myself or using Tableau and all of these SQL and all the different things that you will learn through this program, I've gained a lot of knowledge through that, which has really helped me a lot, be able to help all of you in your future career. So I'm going to talk a little bit, what we're going to talk about, what does the current US job market look like? I saw something that came through in the Q&A already that's just about like, it's hard to get jobs right now, what's going on? So I want to address that right up front. Then how to best prepare for the US analytics job market. Some things that I know just through experience that I would want to help you with, and then how, if you came to the University of Minnesota, how we would help you, how I would help you specifically, and what we do here to make sure we keep those placement numbers up. So some expectations. So this slide is actually from, we partner with an organization called Interview Query. The founder of that organization puts out a lot of different job reports and that kind of thing. I put the information or where this is coming from there. I absolutely encourage you to follow him. His name is Jay Feng. But this report is actually coming from the last month. It kind of looks at kind of a lot of the different places of where people are hiring, or what are the types of typical jobs that people in the analytics market are looking. And as you can see, it fluctuates a lot, especially since COVID. I would say it's just been consistently, the biggest thing that is consistent is the fluctuation in the market. And that's also one of those things too, where my job is to also help all of my students and all of our alums and all of our current or prospective students is to remember that it will fluctuate, and what we can do is focus on what you can do too, or what you can handle and what you can control. If you look at this too, you see the machine learning engineer is like more that really, really technical machine learning engineer is a little bit lower. But, you know, the business analysts and data analysts are really more at the top. I will say it's all like looking at from there. There's a lot of different things. That I think is what's great about the master's in business analytics, as opposed to even just a data science degree, is because it really is focusing on, I've got these great technical skills, but how am I communicating in the market? And you'll hear me talk about that a lot. But as you see my note here too, many companies are open to sponsoring international students. And I will say that's specifically for technical roles. So even if you're one of those students that is like, I think I might want to move more towards a business analyst or a data analyst role, one of the things that will set you apart is really that technical skill, because you're able to say, hey, I have this great skill that not everybody does. And I always think about it, same thing as I said before, I know Python, I know how to talk about it, but I couldn't answer a technical interview. But that's something that will set you apart. So I'm not somebody who could get the jobs that you're looking for. So really honing in that type of a skill. I always say too, working with MSBA, it is a lot easier because you have that technical skill. It can be easier for international students to be successful in the US job market here, as opposed to some of our other types of programs, just because you're gaining that really highly technical skill. So, and I will say as a hint, the Carlson MSBA program helps with that a ton through our experiential learning. And we'll go through that as well. So the changing job market, like I said, it's always fluctuating, but controlling what you can. There's a definite emphasis on AI. If we see organizations that might be doing layoffs, a lot of it is because they're really focusing on they're shifting gears. They're really focusing on the AI side of things. So if you look at this, it's really interesting. Like I said, the fluctuation, right? Year over year growth. If we look at this from his this study from Interview Query, from July 2023 to July 2024, you see things are growing up like crazy. However, if you look from July to August, things went down quite a bit. And we're seeing more of a fluctuation in a couple of these other roles that we haven't seen as much as this BI engineer and an analytics engineer, which is really focusing. I'm looking into more of those as well. But once again, kind of changing with that market and saying, what are those skills that they're looking for the most? And that's one of the things that I do, as well as our Career Center does, to help make sure that you're navigating not only towards what you want to do, but also where is the market going. So what makes you stand out? So your technical skills, your experience is important, but being able to communicate those is really what sets you apart the most. And when we ask recruiters, there's tons of studies out there that say, all right, so you've got the technical skills, you know how to code, you know how to do predictive analytics or whatever else. At the end of the day, what makes the biggest difference is your communication skills. And that's, again, one of the bigger things that we really focus on in this program, is making sure you can translate what have you done within this thing. this program. So when you think about tools, we're looking at will differentiate, it will fluctuate. Once again, there's that word, depending on what type of role you're pursuing. But when we think about what is your special sauce, what are those different things? So obviously math, you're going to be learning, it's a very technical program here at the Carlson School. So you're learning all of these like math and statistics and Python and visualization and big data as well. But then you're also gaining those like soft skills, like how to be a problem solver, how to do these storytelling, communication, visualization, and communicating that out. So at the end of the day, what you really need, even though there's all of these very technical things that they're seeking, at the end of the day, I always stress this, is like thinking outside the box, never stopping learning. But what is the kind of like that special sauce I brought in before, the domain knowledge? What are you bringing into this? What else do you have? I'm doing a lot of conversations with our current students, one-on-one appointments, and I'm loving just saying like, okay, what do you have? And how can we take that and add it to the MSBA and really elevate your brand and what you're bringing to the job market? So when we think about that, we look at these different things. We say, employers value hands-on experience the most. Getting that to get certificates and all that kind of stuff, it's a huge help. It can help. But at the end of the day, where have you gained that experience? How can you, if I ask you, when have you used Python or when have you used this tool? Tell me how you've done that. But what I would encourage you now is to really make yourself ready for this US job market, is be thinking now about how can you be adding hands-on experience to your resume. There are resources like, Tableau and Kaggle.com that can also, like, you can just get in there, just try it out, practice it. These projects and these things that you add to your resume don't necessarily have to be just like from a job or from an internship or that kind of thing. They want to see your hustle. And so how are you doing that? And I will say too, this is another thing I stress too, is Carlson MSBA has a huge focus on experiential learning. And this absolutely sets you up for success. In orientation and all of my conversations with any prospective student too, I always say that the Carlson Analytics Lab, who we work closely with, and the entire program and our faculty really makes my job a lot easier in helping you promote yourself well, because it kind of causes it allows you to say, all right, I have all these experiences, and then you work with myself and the rest of the people on my team to be able to say, how can I translate this best in the market so that to what employers are seeking? So you're gaining all this great experience through the program, and then you're getting it from us. So how we work with you. So I'm going to transition a little bit more to specifically Carlson School. So the CBCC, as I mentioned before, that's our acronym for the Carlson Business Career Center. A couple of different things. So the market here in the US and the way that things work is that, there's a lot of things we help you with, all of these different things. I love the poll that she set up too, just thinking through what are the different things that you want help with? And a lot of you are all of the above. And I will say that's what we do. So we do a lot of group sessions, we do a lot of workshops and things like that. But I do a lot of also individualized coaching, because understanding that every single person is at a different place and wanting to make sure that you are set up for success wherever you are, wherever you're coming from, your background is, and wherever you're heading. So we get students from this in this program, some of you that have 5 to 7 years of experience within data science and are just accelerating. We also get a lot of students that are, hey, I have a software engineering background, or I have an engineering background, and I want to maybe transition more into the analytics space. And so understanding, or like I said too, just, hey, I'm just starting out, I don't have a ton of experience, but I really love this field. And so helping you to kind of move that way. So what you can expect from myself and our team would be to that individualized coaching, that group sessions, those workshops. We do a number of different events, hundreds of events per year. We partner with employers to make sure that you can get your face in front of some of these employers. And then also understanding from you is that within the US market, this is your career search. And ultimately, we do not consider ourselves a placement office. And that's really not the way it works within the US market. But we do say, hey, how can we partner with you? What you want, let me help you, give you the tools to get you to where you want to go. So the way we do that is we have two branches of our office in our Career Center. So I'm part of the coaching team where I'm much more student facing. I do a lot of the workshops, the career coaching, newsletters. You see a lot from me. And then the business development team, they're really much more employer facing. They work behind the scenes a little bit more to build those relationships with employers to be able to bring them to you. So whether that's through a career fair or information sessions or tabling events or all of these different things that give you a chance to have some face-to-face contacts with employers. So when we think about it, there's three different ways, like I said, too. I mean, there's a couple of different these career coaching. I'll go through this quickly because I just shared this a little bit, but like I said, we have a lot of emphasis on this one-on-one coaching, understanding you where you're at. But as we do, like that could be, we do workshops, or I'll do workshops through about resumes, offer evaluation, networking, branding, and LinkedIn. We do an event every year with the mock interview marathon, and bring in other different people from a lot of our alums from different programs to talk through, and be able to give you that one-on-one practice. Practice is something that really is important with that, and being able to communicate and sell your stories. And so we work really hard on that part of thing. Like I said, workshops and events, information sessions, site visits. We do at least a couple of different site visits. And so we have in the past, we have gone to Target, we've gone to Best Buy, US Bank, just within the local area. And then outside of that, I'll talk about that in a minute. And then University of Minnesota job fairs. This is part of, so we do the analytics corporate reception within the, specifically for analytics students. So it's geared towards MSBA. We do let a few other people come in that are really focused on analytics, but that's one is really, really focused on that. That's a networking event. We held that towards the end of the year. But then being a part of the University of Minnesota, you have access to it's such a large university, you have access to so many other events throughout the year. So we just had some students to our Carlson undergrad fairs like coming up this week. Last week, the College of Science and Engineering school had a job fair that we sent our students to, and just had access to all of those things as well. They're hiring a lot of the same students, so we really partner with those organizations or that school to be able to do that. And then there's that career exploration conference. We do a lot of different things to bring alumni in to be able to say, a lot of you were in that exploration or a self-assessment, where am I going? And these panels and alumni panels and things that we do will bring them in to be able to give you an idea of, okay, what does it look like if I wanted to pursue more of a business intelligence engineer role, or more of a data analyst role, or other things. And so we really focus a lot on that and get you to the right people. And then finally, we have a lot of resources and technologies. So within resume books, this is something that we utilize a lot. And a lot of that is basically you put a resume together, and then we work with employers, and they'll come to us and say, hey, we have a need for this type of student, or we'd love to see who's in your class, or that kind of thing. And so we'll send resume books and say, yep, these people are seeking. These are people who would fit your profile and that kind of thing. And so understanding and working with us to put those out and to get your resumes and your profile into the right hands is something we focus a lot on. Handshake is a resource that we use as kind of your one-stop shop. And that is where you can register for events, register for career fairs, sign up for coaching appointments, look for jobs, internships or things like that. And so that's a really good place to do that. And then we have a website that includes information about all of these different things that we talk through. So if there's resumes or offer evaluation or LinkedIn or interviewing, we have a website that kind of has that. And then, like I said, too, newsletters, I am constantly, people are getting a little like, hey, all right, there's a lot of information coming out, but we always say, read your emails, because there's a lot of good information that's coming from our way. So this is a lot of information, and I looked at this too, but there's, like I said, too, because I am really focused on MSBA, and that's the way our office is structured, I get a chance to help focus and create events and resources specifically for MSBA and not just general career, which is not super common from every school. And I'm hoping that nothing changes with that because I absolutely love working with MSBA. But like I said, we do employer and alumni panels throughout the year. We'll try to focus on different things. So this year, I know we have a lot of students that are interested in financial services or marketing analytics, or maybe some are interested in more products. So helping those people just to say, okay, let's look through, let me get a few people from our alums. Maybe let's get a few alums that we can do a panel to be able to showcase what are they doing? What does their job look? How did they get there? If I were going to interview in this space, what would that look like as well? So we do those types of things throughout the year. One of the best parts about, like I said, having been with the MSBA program for the last 7 years, is that I have developed, I've gotten a chance to get to know and build good relationships with a lot of our alums. So it's really fun to be able to kind of say, oh, yep, you should talk to this person, or let's go to that person and have those personal relationships too. So we do a lot of technical focus prep workshops. So when you think about interviewing in itself, technical interviewing is a lot. You just never know. You don't always know what to expect. So you always prepare for behavioral type of interviews. A lot of them are kind of technical interviews are really like common, obviously, but also case interviewing is becoming more and more common. And so there's a lot of different prep workshops. There's a lot of resources that we partner with, that we pay for in our office to make sure that you are ready to go as you work on that. The West Coast Employer Track, I know this is a really, really popular thing that we do. This year, since our program has shifted a little bit, we will be going to over spring break. In the past, we've gone over January. This year, we'll be going over spring break, and we're going to be taking a group of students out to Seattle. Right now, we currently have site visits signed up for at Starbucks and Adobe, I believe. In the past, we've obviously in Seattle, you've obviously visited Amazon and Microsoft and Google and a lot of other places, and Expedia. There's just a lot of great places that we've gone to. And so we have a number of different partners. If I look at MSBA alums in Seattle alone, I think there's over 100, I know. I would say half of them work at Amazon. But they just have a lot of students really want to go out there. And there's a really good network there. I talked a little bit about our analytics corporate reception. That will be happening more in that June time, because most of our students will find jobs closer to graduation. That has historically been the case, and that's what we see. And so we really do use that corporate reception, which is really a networking opportunity, to kind of be the kickstart for the recruiting season and really kicking it into high gear on the job search. I mentioned our interview query. We do pay for premium access for all of our MSBA students. That gives you a chance to focus on technical interviews in SQL and Python and algorithms and all the different things that you would need to. We do that because that's something that we aren't able to as more generalists in our office, but we want to make sure that you're prepared for that. And that's a way that we've been able to do that. I mentioned the mock interview marathon. I think in the past this last year we did it. I had over 60 of our alum that came in and helped out in one capacity or another. There's so many engaged alumni that want to come back and help, and that's a really fun way for them to do so. So Carlson recruitment numbers. I know I hear from a lot of our incoming students that they say, well, this is why, at the end of the day, this is why I came here. And I will say, so on average, we have come, we're looking at, well, this is the 2022. So we just celebrated our 10th anniversary in this of the MSBA, Carlson MSBA program. If our average placement rate has been just under 99%, which is amazing and astounding. And it's not surprising because, like I said, our program really sets you up for success with all of the hands-on learning that you get. This last year from the class of 2023, that's the latest results that we have, is that it was more at 92%. And I will say too, I know it's interesting too. I wrote a note in here that says, while 2023 was lower than the average, we are consistently seeing higher than average results compared to our peer schools. This year has been a little bit slower than it has in the past. We still have a couple of months before kind of those numbers are defined. But I'm working with each and every one of the students to kind of make sure and present opportunities and help each of them. So it has been a little bit of a tougher market. I do see a lot of positivity. I've listened to a lot of different economics podcasts and things like that to say, where's the market going? What are we looking for? I think all economists, nobody exactly knows, but there's a lot of things that the US market and the government is doing to be able to kind of bring that kind of thing up. And like I said, it fluctuates a lot, but I have a lot of reason to hope and be excited for what's to come. So while things will fluctuate, I also see, I have a lot of positivity about the future market too. So companies hiring our students. This is kind of a combination of the last couple of years. As you can see, there's a lot of big organizations. I will say from the class of 2024, and while we're still helping students to find opportunities, a few students are still seeking opportunities. I will say Capital One has continued. We already have, I would say, close to 50 alums that are at Capital One right now in either a senior data analyst, senior business analyst, or a data scientist type role. But Capital One has consistently been a really strong partner of ours, and it's great because you don't have to love financial services to be part of it. You might end up being a senior data analyst in the marketing team or something like that. So it's really, really cool. And they're people that go there often stay there because it's a really, really good job. Wayfair, we've actually seen a really good influx this last year in Wayfair. A lot of students are interviewing. We've had a handful of students that have received offers from there. So that's really good. And then Latent View Analytics. I know a lot of our students who are interested more in consulting. That's more of an analytics consulting firm. And they've been a really strong partner of ours over the last 5 or more years. The other organizations too, Discover was a really big one over like the class, especially for the class of 2023. A lot of these organizations will fluctuate. Some days, some years we'll get like 3 to 5 students go there. The next year we don't get any that go there. That might depend. So JP Morgan Chase was hiring a ton of international students for a while. Then I think they just got too much, and so they just stopped for a while. That doesn't mean they will stop forever. But once again, we see across the board that if students want to go to some of these places, convincing them that you are the right student for the job. And then, a lot of times they'll say, hey, we usually don't sponsor for this role, but we really like you and we're going to make an exception. So I see that happen all the time with our analytics, with our MSBA students. And so it's just a matter of like being in the right place at the right time, selling yourself, branding yourself correctly. And there's really a lot of opportunities at some of these great organizations, as well as a lot of smaller to mid-sized organizations as well. So this is some different common areas that we see students go to. If you look at the red ones on the right, I would say senior data analyst, data scientist, business intelligence engineer are kind of our top 3 roles. But I always tell students, don't really focus too much on job titles because it changes, it depends. People have different definitions of that. So a lot of times I tell students to seek, hey, let's look for analysts and, what's a tool that you like? Or analytics and, some other keyword that is really interesting to you, and seeing what kind of job titles come up from there. But there's a lot of different areas that you can go. And we look at the student population in this MSBA program, and there are students that somewhat super technical, somewhat less technical, and just helping each other along the way. So where our students go. So our students accept jobs, as you can see, across the country. As you can see there too, we have 1% of outside of the US and international. This market has been harder, like I said too, but even still, we've still had tremendous success with international students who come to the US and want to stay in the US. Majority of them are able to do so. So we've seen a lot of it, obviously, being in the Midwest. We have a really good proportion of students that stay within this Midwest area. As you can see from that 37%, that covers Minnesota, that covers a lot of people that go to Chicago. We actually had quite a few students that went to Chicago this last year. And then a little bit smattering from there, but most are in the Minneapolis or Chicago area in that 37%. Our East Coast, that 11 and 12%, a lot of that ends up being, we had actually a larger percentage of students in the last 2 years going to New York City. Wayfair is based in Boston, so we've seen more Boston. Capital One is most students go to the McLean, which is the Washington, D.C. area. So always see a high proportion there. And then, as I mentioned before, West Coast is something that fluctuates up and down depending on the class. But we do have quite a few students and alums, excuse me, that have moved to Seattle, as well as San Francisco, and then other places around the US. But there is still, as an international student, I would say we have a decent amount of international students in our program. And so because of that, we really get a chance to see, if you look at in fact, I'm going to move up here. If you go back to our companies hiring our students, I mentioned specifically about JP Morgan Chase, how they had kind of taken a step back. But if you look at every single one of these organizations, we have international students have gone and been successful at actually all of these. Healthcare is something that is, if you don't have a healthcare background, sometimes that is less friendly. But there's also quite a bit of opportunity elsewhere. So I would say too, in terms of that question of like, well, our international students, where can they go? I would say with your technical skills, if you're really promoting your technical skills well, you can find jobs at most organizations that would be seeking. So with that said, I know I've mentioned before, but financial services, because if you see that, the Capital One, JP Morgan Chase, Citi, let's Discover, all of those within the financial services realm, there is a lot of opportunity within that. And so if you have any interest in that, or fraud or risk or anything like that, there is, I continue to see a lot of continued growth in that space. Retail, we've seen, I think having Target in our backyard, we have Walmart, just those are a couple of different places, but also there's so much more even within like the Home Depot, and then seen within that marketing analytics, we see a lot of people that have an interest in that kind of going, more into that retail space. Consulting is consistently about one of our, like around the third highest. And one of the things I will stress with consulting is that consulting within the analytics space, a lot of times those people who are going into consulting are going into very analytics consulting. They might be a data scientist in a consulting firm, or they're working within a specific analytics consulting organization or department. And so that really is that focus. And so you are with doing that, it depends on the organization, the role, but it depends, you might be doing more like very specific data science. Sometimes it might be much more insights and visualization and that kind of thing. But that is an area that we've definitely seen a lot of opportunity there too. So in technology and healthcare, obviously it's a couple of areas as well. So how MSBA, I'm going a little bit long, so I'm trying to wrap things up here, but I know what sources of jobs accepted. So the market has changed a lot since COVID. Now that the world is very much more virtual, we're doing this opportunity, everything is on Zoom. We even find that a lot of organizations like Target is literally 5 minutes from campus. Their corporate headquarters is 5 minutes from campus. We even see that those organizations, if you interview with them, your full interview would be online and handled by them too. So with that, a lot of things, like 75% is graduate initiated. And so thinking through that, it's like doing the networking, connecting with us through that, to make sure that you're connecting with the right people and going there. There is a bigger emphasis on that than there has been in the past, but we work with you every step of the way. School facilitated recruiting activities. I think I've mentioned all of these different things, but it is important too. A lot of these opportunities are just building those relationships to get you to that next step. Average starting salary, really quickly, I know we've said, from our employment report as over 117,000. I will say 2024, we've seen signs of cooling. That's really typical of the job market. So it is still higher than like it used to be, but we've seen a huge influx, and then it's just cooling just a little bit. So those people with more experience are kind of still seeing those really numbers. Those two students with less experience might be starting out a little bit lower, but at the same time, you have the opportunity for growth very quickly. We have a strong university network. So one of the things too, if you look on the right side, not only within the business analytics, there's over 800 MSBA alums over the last 10 years, which is really cool, but also the Carlson School and then the University of Minnesota. As I mentioned before, this is not a great picture, but I decided to put it in anyway. We just had the 10th anniversary this weekend. It was so fun to see all of these people flying in from all over the country to celebrate and just be able to see and connect. And it's a really strong community there. And it was just fun to see everybody and make new connections. So last thing I'll say is that one of the great things is that CVCC, we offer alumni services for life. We actually have a dedicated alumni coach that's available to all of our alumni, but then I also meet with alums as well if things change throughout the years and things like that. So I think that's a really big thing that not a lot of people know and not a lot of schools offer. And so depending on where you're at in the job search, we've got your back and we're here for you throughout your career. So with that, I'm going to end it. And if I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'll stop talking for now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Erin. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation and taking us through everything. Before I move forward, firstly, congratulations on the 10th anniversary. I think Garth and Susan, if both of you could come on screen, that would be great. Hi, everyone. So congratulations on your 10th anniversary, wonderful milestone. I'm sure you're all very excited. And yes, we do have quite a few questions which have sort of poured in. So for the next 10 minutes or so, we will be taking on these questions, some of the usual ones, but of course, I'll start with Garth or Susan, one of you. If you could quickly just tell us which are the intakes that y'all are looking to take in students and the dates. I know you mentioned it in your presentation, but just for the benefit of those who missed out. So what are your fall and spring intake dates, and when are you looking at accepting students?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, just to reiterate, this program only offers a fall intake. So the next opportunity to join the program will be fall 2025. So all of the application deadlines that I showed in my portion of the presentation, if you follow the link I posted in the chat, it'll show all of the application deadlines to start in fall 2025.
Great. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Just to build on that, our round one deadline is November 1st. So just so folks get that on their calendar, round one and round two are great targets. Round one, I can't believe it's already going to be creeping up here in about 6 weeks or so. Feels crazy. But if that feels too tight, then certainly try to aim for round two. Applying early in the process is always better and helps to maximize your chance of scholarship as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Susan and Garth. I'll take the next question also for you. Students want to know, do you require any evaluation from the students' behalf, like a WES evaluation? So just for context, most of the degrees in India are 3-year degree programs or 3-year degrees that the students get. So do you all accept students with a 3-year degree program, or do they need to go in for a WES evaluation or any other kind of evaluation?
Yeah, great question. So I'll kind of cover both sides of that question there. First, in terms of the 3-year degree question, so we require that students with a 3-year degree from India also have at least an additional year of graduate education too. That's a mandate from our central administration. So that's the answer to that portion. As far as the WES question, we don't require WES evaluations from our applicants. We have sort of an internal processing team that are experts in evaluating transcripts from all different types of universities all around the world. So just an original version of your transcript, an English language version.
Okay, great. So no WES evaluation, but definitely they need to do something after the 3 years graduation to show that 4th year as such. Okay, great. Erin, I'll come to you in a moment, but I'm going to rephrase this question a little bit. So, you know, a lot of students do have this fear somewhere in the back of their mind that, oh, the US is going through a recession. What happens to my return on investment? What kind of career opportunities will be available for me? And year after year, you guys have successfully managed to place students in some very good companies. So any kind of reassurance or any kind of advice that you would like to give to the students who are planning to apply for this year and come to the US in terms of what are the kind of job opportunities that are available for them, and how can they sort of make sure that they are landing the right kind of jobs once they are done with their education?
Yeah, absolutely. And I covered some of this in the
Yes,
slideshow.
yes, you did. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I do think there's a lot of things that you can be doing. Every time students come to the program, they say, okay, well, how can I be the one who's like not the one who's getting that? Can I be the positive side of that percentage? And I think a lot of it is really starting early and being really serious about it. So like I said, too, the US job market, and no matter which school you go to, we don't do a placement necessarily. It's really shifted in that. So it is hard work. And it's a challenging market, but I would say too, there's a lot of things you can do. And the bigger things that I would say is getting some of that experience. And like I said, it doesn't have to be huge, like I said, just practice, going to Kaggle, going to some of these other things and just practicing doing a project. It could look messy, it could look dirty, it could look ugly, it doesn't matter. But the bigger thing is that how are you utilizing some of those skills, even if you've never used some of the skills before, just trying it out with doing an actual project so that you have something, so that if somebody says, hey, how have you used this skill? You can go in and say, yep, this is how I've done it. And now that I've learned so much more, this is through this program. Now this is how I would update that even more. So those are the bigger things too. And like I said too, the market, I mean, if you are applying for a fall of 2025 start, the market is going to be very different 2 years from now than it does right now. And we are seeing a lot of positive signs that they're getting the economy under control. But I like I said, I see a lot of positivity there.
Thank you so much, Erin. I know you. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I saw that I cut you off.
No,
I just
please
wanted
go
to
ahead.
add something to what Erin just mentioned too. So Erin kind of spoke to that answer from the careers perspective, but I just wanted to add too. Erin mentioned that like doing projects on your own, that can also help with the admissions process as well. Like I mentioned, we have our prerequisites. There's a programming and calculus prerequisites. Those are just the bare minimum of what a student can do. I always encourage students to try some personal projects as well, because any additional evidence you can show of technical proficiency and technical experience can only make you more competitive in the admissions and scholarship review process.
Right. So I hope all of this helps. I know you had touched upon it a little bit during your presentation, but I just wanted to sort of bring it out again. Susan Garth, one of you could take up my next question, which is about what are the requirements that you look for in a student? What is, let's say, what are the criteria that you look at? Are looking at GMAT or GRE, number of years of work experience, how many years of undergrad, etc. So if you could just give an overview about the requirements specifically for international candidates who are looking to apply to Carlson for any of your master's programs.
Sure, no problem. So I can take that. So for the MS in Business Analytics program specifically, we don't have a hard requirement for GMAT or GRE scores. They are optional if your GPA is the equivalent of a 3.0 or higher.
Okay.
That said, if you have a GPA that's even higher than that and you still want to submit test scores, you think it'll even help boost that academics piece even more, we will absolutely review them and look at them, but that's not a hard requirement as long as you meet kind of that minimum GPA requirement. Garth, I believe, mentioned earlier that we do have some prerequisite courses, so calculus and programming requirements, and I think Garth is going to paste the link to the full list in the chat, so I won't go through all of those items in detail, but just, the things that we're really honing in are certainly, this is a rigorous program, but because it's a rigorous program, our students have great results, and they're really, really well prepared for the job market. So academically, we want to make sure that you're ready and that you're prepared, because we want to set you up for success and we want this to be a great match. Other things that we're really going to look at are your communication skills, so both written and verbal communication skills. So are you able to kind of clearly articulate why this program? There's a lot of programs out there that you're considering and applying to. What excites you about Carlson? And then what are your goals? So, it could be, I'm using this program to kind of dive in and maybe pivot to something new. If you have any target industries or companies, we're just, that really helps us kind of think through, okay, is there a match, right? Is there a match between what you want to do, what your experience is, and how we can support you doing that? And then in terms of experience, Aaron and Garth both mentioned that, we don't have a hard work experience requirement. So students can apply to this program, after they graduate from undergrad. However, if you're a candidate like that, we want to make sure that you have at least a few internships. So we're looking ideally for 2 or 3 internships if you're a direct from undergrad candidate, and or even some projects that you've worked on that really shows, okay, I've applied these technical skills, I'm familiar with this, I've done this project in my internship in a lot of detail about that. And then if you have full-time work experience, 1 to 3 years of full-time work experience is great too, that especially in this job market will really help set you apart. And you'll have great experiences to draw from with internships and even skills that you'll bring into the classroom as well. So those are kind of the things that we're looking at holistically. And again, you don't need to be a rock star in every single area. We're gonna a really strong piece in one area might offset an area or application that might be a little bit weaker. So yeah, we're gonna be looking at all those things together. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll add to that just very quickly, Sabahat. So we actually have some virtual events coming up on our end where we dive very deeply into the application process, and one of our recruitment representatives will give a lot of tips that they have. So I'll go ahead and post the link to that as well in the chat. So if anyone here is interested in more details on the application process, happy to continue that conversation.
Right. One last thing, just to sort of close this conversation, do you require a language proficiency test, an IELTS or TOEFL, from students, international students whose language of communication or medium of study has been in the English language?
Great question. So it's going to depend entirely on the country in which the student received their education. And it can, it can vary by country. Historically, I know that students from India, they would not qualify for that waiver. So I encourage you all, I'm going to post another helpful link in the chat so you could check for yourself to see if your country qualifies for a waiver. If you do not qualify for an English language test waiver, I would strongly encourage you to look into the Duolingo test. We do accept Duolingo. And from what I've heard from prospective students, it has been pretty easy to schedule, and it's also more cost effective compared to the other tests. Okay, great. So Garth has posted a link to everyone who had the question around IELTS, TOEFL, or any other English language proficiency. I am sure that can be very helpful to you. Great. Erin, I'm going to come back to you. I know, we spoke a lot about the different services that the Career Center offers during your presentation, but if you could just sum it up very quickly and just let the students know as to what exactly are the services that they can sort of watch out for and they need to be aware of, that would be really helpful. Just want to make sure that they get everything covered.
Yeah, so I think assuming you come to the program, I would say the bigger thing is that we always start with orientation and really to get everybody set up on the right path. And then I always encourage everybody to come through and say, let's meet with me for once, just to start doing some goal setting. Where are you at, and making, since it is an individualized career search, making sure that each person is on that right path. But our biggest marquee events, like I said too, we have a number of job fairs that the students can participate in. We have closer to the graduation time, we have our West Coast like track that a lot of students, not everybody is able to participate in that, but most are. And then our analytics corporate reception and our mock interview marathon. As I mentioned before too, we had our 10th anniversary, and we did a little bit of a networking reception there as well. And we try to do that in the beginning of each year as well, just because it's that networking and that connecting with people is so important too. So those are a few of the things that you could expect coming into the program.
Great, Erin, thank you so much. I have to take this question, which has just been posted by Rajat. He's asking, are any of your programs STEM offered?
Yeah, great question. We have quite a few STEM designated programs here at the Carlson School. The one we've been discussing today, the MSBA program, the Business Analytics program, is STEM designated. So for those of you that are looking for those additional years of OPT time, that is going to be an option through the MSBA program. We have several other STEM designated programs as well, like our supply chain program, our finance program, our accounting program are also all STEM designated. Susan, hopefully I covered all of them just off the top of my head there.
The only other one is our management science MBA program as well.
Yes.
So that's the kind of STEM designated version of the full-time MBA program. So yeah, quite a few to choose from in the whole portfolio. And so, you know, while we did a deep dive kind of on the MSBA program, all the other STEM designated programs at the Carlson School have kind of equivalent career support. So there's an Erin equivalent to support students in our other programs. So we have individual coaches that work with groups of students in each of our programs, which is awesome because they get to know those students, they get to go to the students well, they get to know the market really well, they really know how to support students. Yeah.
Great. Rajat, I hope that answers your question as well. Okay. Coming back to you, Garth, you know, you spoke about the preparatory courses such as calculus, etc., which students can do. Let's say, for example, if a student has to apply to a specific department, but they're unsure about, you know, what are the right kind of courses that they should apply for as a prerequisite. Is there someone who does potentially guide them through that or helps them understand that, okay, these would be the right kind of courses which you could look up to, or these are the kind of courses which would really sort of help you in the right direction?
Yeah, excellent question. So for the purposes of the prerequisites that need to be fulfilled before the student can even apply to the program, as I said, there's the programming prerequisite and the calculus prerequisite. Those can be fulfilled in a couple different ways. For either prerequisite, if you took a undergraduate course in Python, for instance, that would cover the prerequisite for programming. If you took an undergraduate course in calculus, that would cover that prerequisite as well. For both calculus and programming, we also allow for students to take online Coursera courses. And if you look at that link, one of the links that I posted here in the chat regarding the application requirements, we actually have some professor pre-approved Coursera courses that you could take. They're asynchronous, they're online, but they still can give you a pretty in-depth education on the subject of Python programming specifically. So I'd encourage you to take a look at those that are posted online already. Additionally, for programming specifically, let's say your undergraduate wasn't in programming, but in your job, since you've graduated from your undergraduate degree, you've done many projects with Python or Java or C++. That can also be sufficient for the purposes of fulfilling the programming prerequisites specifically. So that's just kind of a big picture, few ways that students can fulfill those. But again, if you have any specific questions about your situation, or you want to ask if your specific experience would cover either of the prerequisites, you could definitely reach out to me directly and I can give you that clarification.
Thank you. Thank you. I know we have sort of hit the time mark, but I'm just going to very quickly take two more questions if that's okay with you guys. So great. My next question, Garth, Susan, one of you can take it, Erin, even you. You know, we all know that the application process takes a long time, and a lot of times students are starting last minute. Given the visa situation and all the other formalities that come with the application process, what would be your advice to these prospective students in terms of timelines? Like, when should they actually start preparing? When is it that they should start filling in their forms, applying for their visa, keeping everything ready so that there is no rush last minute? I'm sure you also get a ton of emails at the last minute about students who missed a deadline or don't know which direction they're going in. So I'm sure this would be helpful to all the 220 of the participants which are still here. What is the ideal time and how can they plan this better to ensure that they're not missing the mark?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll start and then Garth, you can chime in. So from our admissions perspective, you know, as I mentioned earlier, like the earliest deadline you can apply to is best. So that said, I would say we get our most applications, like our peak at our January 15th deadline, so our round two deadline. And I would say, you know, while we can accept applications from international students outside the US into March, you're at a much better advantage if you target that January 15th or even November 1st if you can. Every year we always see students who have some sort of delay with, you know, I-20 visa scheduling, all of that. But our students who apply by that January 15th deadline have a much higher rate of successful, you know, going through the process really successfully. I will also say that it's a lot less last minute for them when they're trying to, you know, go through that process, prepare for orientation, find housing, like going through all the other steps that have to happen before you're making a move to another country. So my advice would be like, again, I know November 1st is coming up soon, but January 15th, at this point, it's a really realistic deadline. If you want to see, if you're planning to take a standardized test, that gives you plenty of time. If you're not planning to take a standardized test, I would say you certainly could still target the November 1st deadline. Some of the things that we see that come in that take a little extra time are like things like letters of recommendation. So things that are kind of responsibility of a third party, not yourself. So I would say when you open an application, try to start thinking now of like, who would I want my recommendations to be from? Have those conversations with those people so they're prepped and ready to go, and then let them know about what our deadlines are. Because the other thing the candidates should know is that, you can still submit your application without us, that your application can contain all the things that you're in control of, and you can hit submit. But you won't be considered complete until we get like those third party things like the recommendations in. So I would just say like start thinking through that, give yourself ample time, make sure those people know. I would even give them tell them the deadline is a week earlier than it actually is, just in case, so that you build in a little bit of buffer time. But I mean, if you're organized and you've been thinking about this for a while, starting our application process is online, and if you're not taking a standardized test, then you've taken the prereqs, it's pretty streamlined. If you haven't taken the prereqs, you'll need a little bit of extra time to go through that process. But I would say, like in an ideal world, if I was an international student, from outside the US, I would be targeting no later than that January 15th deadline.
Right. Garth, anything to add?
Yeah, and Susan gave a really in-depth overview there. The only thing I would add is every student's a little different, right? And every student, every applicant might have different questions about the process. They might have different intricacies about their profile. So I always encourage students to schedule an appointment with someone from the admissions office. Ask questions about your specific profile. They can also give you some tips on how to complete the application in a timely manner as well that might be specific to your situation. So I'm also going to be posting in the chat the link to our appointment portal. So if you want to schedule an appointment with someone from our office, reach out to us, schedule a Zoom meeting. We're happy to help you through the process with the individual aspects of your application too.
Great, great. Of course, a lot of questions are pouring in about the scholarships which are offered at Carlson University. Garth, do you want to drop a link for that, or would you like to tell them a little bit about the scholarship, the percentages offered, etc.?
Yeah, I can give some information about scholarships.
Sure.
So this past cycle, the maximum scholarship award that we gave was $25,000. So some candidates didn't get an award, but some received up to $25,000. So that's been our maximum award. We always reassess every year, depending on what our budget is and kind of what our targets are looking like. So if there's any change to that, we would certainly communicate it. There's nothing, and we try to be as generous as possible. So I would say, this year in the incoming class, the majority of students got, some level of award, unless they applied later in the cycle. So that's just another factor to consider. There's also a holistic review process, and there's nothing extra that you need to submit to be considered for scholarship. So it's just baked into our review process. So once your file is read, you complete your video interview. We have asynchronous interviews now to allow more flexibility for international students. Then we start the review process. There's a lot of eyes on your file. Erin helps us review files, our academic director. So everybody's really invested in the program. And then the folks who are aiming to be admitted, we evaluate you for scholarship, and you'll get that. If you're awarded scholarship, that, and you get a decision letter at the same time. And we do have our decision. We have our decision release dates also posted on the website with the application deadlines, so you can know when to expect to take your reference.
Thank you, Susan. Erin, I was going to take that last question for you. I see that you've started typing your answer there. Would you want to take it up online, and that could be the last question for the night?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I hope I'm answering this correctly from the way it was worded, but I think the biggest thing to know is, as we've talked about before, this MSBA program is a STEM designated program, which means that you can work for up to 3 years without needing to be sponsored by an employer. Because of the technical skill and the technical nature of the role, I will say once again, there's a lot of organizations out there that are open to taking you on with that.
Right.
Most companies do what they say is they will sponsor you. A lot of these companies will sponsor, and that just means that they will submit a petition to get your H-1B, which allows you to have an extended visa to be able to work visa. And then it takes it away from this OPT visa, like student visa, and into an H-1B, which is more employer focused. So if you talk to any of our alumni, they can kind of talk more about that process. But yes, that's kind of what it is. And like I said, because of your technical skills, it does increase your opportunity, your chances for getting that sponsorship.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Erin. So thank you so much, Erin, Garth, Susan, for your time. It was a wonderful session. To all, we still have around close to 200 students in the window. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining in. You've been a lovely audience. I hope the panel also enjoyed answering all the questions. Garth has dropped a lot of links for all those of you who are looking to get more information from the Carlson School of Business. We will also be sending you a WhatsApp message tomorrow along with an email with more details about the university program and a recording of the session in case you have missed that out. So once again, to everyone in the US, thank you so much. Have a nice day. And to everyone in India and Africa, good afternoon, good night. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.